All right. I think we're good to go. All systems go over here. Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and this is show number 1542, season 15, episode 42. And I have titled this episode, Fortress Communities, Sustainable Medicine, and Cultural Pluralism. I really had to practice that last part. It was a little bit more difficult than you think trying to say pluralism in an announcer style voice. Yeah, we're basically going to be talking more about the culture wars that we see taking place not only in Dearborn, Michigan, but nationwide. We've also got the Department of Education classifying nurses as not a professional occupation. They've been removed. We've also got Dr. Marty Makary saying that he knows at least of 3 people who died from the COVID vaccine. Lots of transparency coming out there. And in the first segment, we jump into basically the AI takeover. The result of 30% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, or at least 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. More bankruptcies, the rollout of AI, how AI can already replace 12% of the U.S. workforce. We've got Elon Musk championing things like universal basic income and how that's being rolled out to the masses as everybody's hurting. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but we're already in December. I hope you've been having a fantastic year so far, and I hope you've been appreciating the work we've been doing, because it's kind of wild how fast this year has gone by. And it's crazy. Like, we have to start wrapping up the season, and then we got to have that whole conversation of what we're going to be doing in between seasons, and then what we're going to be doing for next season. It's crazy. I got the webcam right here. Like, let me see. I got the webcam right here. Can I throw this up right quick? Yeah, maybe. Let me see real quick. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to. I've got it set up, but not looking good. I look like a total jabroni. let me let me do that real quick. Let me see if I could throw myself up there real quick. Hey, look at that. I'll be a monkey's uncle. There I am in front of you, as I have been this entire year. God, I could look way, way better. Let's go ahead and jump into the goodness that everybody's here for. We'll talk more about the good things people can look forward to in the near future later on in the show. Let's keep it focused on the work. It really is crazy seeing everything go down. We got Sundar Pichai saying that what we're seeing right now is a civilization level shift in society with the rollout of AI. And I think it's crazy because I was talking about this with a couple people over Thanksgiving, and it's just like the singularity is here, automation is here. We are in that time frame. And very frequently on the show, you hear me talk about how this is the future. It's run up on us. Are we psychologically ready for a lot of the things that we're going to be seeing? And I'm not sure if we are. I'm not sure if we're psychologically, spiritually, culturally, economically ready for a lot of the things that are going to come hit us. At the start of the show, basically in the intro and the honorable mentions, we're going to be talking about how NASA dropped a bombshell, finally admitting that we didn't go to the moon. That popped up right before we came on the air with you guys just last week too, because we're talking about humanity and society and reality and strange things that are going on, kind of dovetailing what we talked about just last week with you guys. There is a IVF ad in New York subway, basically offering people their designer babies. Have your best babies. It really is crazy when you think about the world that we're in, the time that we come from, and where these people are trying to take us and the implications behind it all. Like, it really is just wild. It really, truly is. And we're going to do our level-headed best to try to deliver this information. I'll be 1,000% honest with you guys. This wasn't, for me, a very heavy news week. I didn't get absorbed and enmeshed in the news. One thing I'm really kind of looking forward to talking about is this Afghani shooting of a National Guard member. And then obviously some of the declarations and threats that we're hearing come from some of our Middle Eastern newcomers over here into America. And just basically the chaos and the instability and the civil unrest that we can expect in 2026 really is getting wild. And again, we're doing our very level-headed best to bring it to you guys without losing our mind. With that being said, let me go ahead and jump into the intro or the updates, and then we'll kick it into the intro and the honorable mentions. If you guys want to support this operation, the best way to do so is to go to patreon.com/noise. Patreon.com/NOIZCE. That's the best way to support this operation in its current configuration. As you can tell, I'm kind of alluding to some of the other cool things that I would like to do with our amazing audience. And what I found wild too, personally, is just how much work I've done in the crypto space with various individuals, and how much more can be done with our so-called conscious truth-seeking community. I'm dropping posts here and there, I'm talking to people every now and then, but it's not the same. And that's why we need to get a little bit more locked in. Patreon.com/noise. That's the best way to support us as we come to a close for this year and this season. There will be more ways to support us in the very near future. Like, it's really that simple. We're doing a lot of cool things, and you're going to hear me talk about it specifically when we get into kind of like the economic state of America and what's all going on. Patreon.com/noise. Support us, support yourself, and support this movement of truth. We're out here 15 plus seasons, and I'm very, very proud of those. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I'm looking at my kid who's like 4, and I want more things to be proud of for her and want more things to be proud of for my second born. And it's just it is a matter of pride. It is a matter of like nostalgia, confidence, achievement, because we will be doing a lot more. And I thank every single one of you people for being here for that. I really, really do. Whether you're active, whether you're passive, whether you're a supporter or a contributor, like, I really just support and appreciate what we've been able to do in these times, in this crazy world. And I have to say that, man, because I take it for granted. I thought everybody knew that Obama put in stay behind networks. I thought everybody knew about like conspiracies and the immigration invasion, the culture wars. I thought everybody knew about like the implants and the transhumanists. I thought everybody knew about the Satanists and the occultists. I thought everybody knew. Turns out that's not the case. And so I really am appreciative of the kind of pedigree that we've been able to have and groom ourselves with and into over these past couple of years, my friends. And I'm saying that because here we are in December, just saying the same thing, but in different ways. And before you know it, come next month, it'll be 2026, and we're going to be in a completely different ballgame. Patreon.com/noise. That's the best way to support us in this current configuration. We're going to be doing a lot more cool stuff with our audiences in the very near future, man. Some of it's already happening. Get locked in, right? Get locked in. With that being said, you can get access to over 500 plus episodes by just simply subscribing to our podcast feed. Speaking of January, this January, we found out that Blog Talk Radio discontinued its services and took those 500 plus episodes from us. I was wrecked emotionally, but don't worry, we bounced back and we were able to recover them. And now you can listen to them over on Spreaker, Amazon, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, Alexa, Podcast Addict, every other major podcasting platform, right? iHeartRadio. I need to put that over here. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on a lot of different platforms. And what's wild is we started out on iTunes. We had hundreds of reviews dating back at least 10 years, man, of people that have been rocking with us, but they took that away in January. But we bounced back. We were recently able to recover our YouTube channels from 2014, youtube.com/noise era, as well as one of our backups. I've got the links for those in the description bar. And on our episode article. That's basically what I mean when I say description bar is episode article, because we're not primarily on YouTube. We take the intro part of the show and then we upload it to YouTube to kind of reconnect with our existing audiences and let them know that we're still here. That's why the intros have a whole different flavor and feel to them these days, because I'm trying to tease people. I'm trying to spread a little breadcrumbs over there. As well as broadcasting over there on Odyssey. We have content that goes back to 2018, season 6. Your boy is busy. You can find the links to our Discord, both of our Telegrams, our Instagram that we've been kind of slacking on. Be 1,000% honest with you. There's a way to get back to the old ways, but it's most likely going to involve AI and automation, which I think most people would actually look forward to. And we'll talk more about that later on in the show. It's just a lot of different moving gears, man. It's a lot of different juggling. Again, you guys can support us through patreon.com/noise, patreon.com/NOICCE. You can also support us through Coffee, PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and we will be creating a Substack. I really like that format because the older I get, man, the more stuff I have to say, and I don't like the way that we're saying it now, and I've got to figure out a new innovative way, and it's most likely going to be a Substack. But there are all kinds of different ways that you guys can support us. You can support yourself by getting some New Leaf Naturals CBD oil. Using promo code FOF25, you can get 10 to 30% off. Storable goods. I'm always going to be like preaching that because, I mean, look at the state of the economy. Look at how fragile things are. Look at them teasing cyber pandemics and shutdown of critical infrastructure and all this other crazy stuff. You don't want to try to get storable goods whenever you can't, my friends. You want to get it now. Get it at today's tastes, with today's rates, at today's pace. You know what I'm already going to say. And with that being said, I think this is a good way for me to go ahead and segue into the world of signs. They didn't put something out this week. They, like myself, took a break last week. They didn't. This video is 12 days old. They took a break last week because, it was Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I did. Lots of steak, lots of ribs, lots of rice, lots of shrimp, lots of chicken, lots of sleeping, lots of drinking, and being very thankful. I'll say this and I'll go ahead and play the clip with the world of signs. It's like we really should be grateful that we were born here in America. We should really be more grateful and appreciative of the fact that we have the founding fathers. And heck yeah, there's Freemasons, there's Illuminati, there's conspiratorial people all the time. What I'm trying to say is think about who we are as a people, think about what you guys have become accustomed to. And again, that pedigree, that mindset, and how they're taking it away from us, and why we have to fight tooth and nail for something that we never knew, or something that we never appreciated, and how that sets up the foundation for those that come after us. So truly, we live in historic times. And again, I want to say thank you guys for being a part of the show in any kind of capacity, whether you're liking, sharing, retweeting, or just commenting, supporting. Like, this is a big thing in more ways than one. And we impact people in more ways than one. And I'm saying that to myself. And so again, very appreciative. I'm gonna stop being mushy. We got a lot of content to hit. With that being said, let's go ahead and kick it off with the world of science.
Này là tôi rút rồi.
light to the left-hand side of the sun. I'm looking west from my balcony in LA. This is west. There's the main sun, I guess.
Look at these two suns.
Light over here.
Two suns in California. More chemtrails over the US and the UK.
Look at this pattern. This is crazy. There's another jet blasting through. There's this trail. There's this guy right here blasting through. Then there's these guys all the way over here.
Chemtrails, bro. They're spraying you. They're killing you. They're trying to make us retarded. There you have it. The world of science, ladies and gentlemen. The world of science. Yeah, lots of crazy things going on. Floods, two suns, volcanoes erupting. I want to go ahead and see if we can try to get that clip right quick, where this woman is in Los Angeles on the 18th of November, and she's documenting the two sun phenomena. I think this is so crazy. I think that is so crazy that we have now entered into the time frame to where we have to question, is this our regular sun? Do we have two suns? Is this Nibiru? Is this Planet X? It's like as I'm sitting here watching all this go down, the Volcan de Fuego in Guatemala on the 19th of November erupt, I'm thinking to myself, we have to have a paranormal segment. A paranormal portion is what I have written over here in the notes. Right? There's the chemtrails in the UK and the chemtrails in the US. Pretty sure everybody felt it. It's like as I woke up this morning to do last minute show note preparation, there was snow on the ground. I went and made a snowman this morning and used a child's training potty as the hat because it looks like a cowboy's hat upside down. You know, and so I look at all these things going on around the world and I just see destabilization. I see unsettling things. But the very same way that this type of phenomena is documented worldwide is the very same way that I'm sure paranormal phenomena is documented worldwide. And we need to get into that because it truly is a spiritual battle. We're going to be getting into later on in this segment, Earth's energetic grid, the free energy power grid. I want to talk about that because I believe in ancient civilizations and previous incarnations that we've had, that is a real thing. That's what the pyramids are. That's where you see some places looking like motherboards and computer chips and things that look like it's circuitry, because the Earth itself is a massive energy machine. And with all this environmental stuff that they're doing, they're jacking with the natural rhythm of the planet. This is something we discussed very early on, or at least a few years ago, when we harped on the Schumann resonance and how humans are deeply tied to their environment. And by them altering the Schumann resonance, they're ultimately altering us. And this can also be said for what they're doing with chemtrails and how they're trying to alter the environment and geoengineer or engineer society and ultimately us. It's crazy when you think about it. We're becoming the aliens. We're making ourselves alien to our natural planet. And just to take it a step a little bit deeper, clearly Earth is not our home, but it is where we reside. Clearly, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, a fleshly, temporal, mortal experience. But that's why we have to be here. We have to leave it the way we found it, or at least improve it from whenever we got here. And these people, they're just jacking with it, destroying it, messing with it. This next video clip we have coming up is of somebody trying to burn snow because they now realize this isn't even real snow. We got two suns, we got fake snow, we got chemtrails. Do you see why I'm saying we're becoming the aliens? We're not living in harmony with our environment. Let's go ahead and proceed. Here's the video clip. So she grabs some snow up off the ground, walks inside.
Got the snow? This is so wild. Okay. Got the snowball, right? Set this phone up so you can see this. Watch this.
She compacts the snow, puts it together, makes a little snowball, grabs that lighter, and the snow's not burning.
See it?
The snow is,
Not
well, the snow,
melting.
yeah, it's not
Look at
melting,
it,
but it's burning.
It's literally burning. No water coming off. It's supposed to be snow, right? Look at this. Look at it.
I've never seen
is
burnt
this?
snow. I've never seen burnt snow.
Do not let your kids eat this. I wouldn't even let them play in this. This is all chemicals, and it stinks. It smells like burning plastic.
That's crazy.
This is horrible. You see it? Burnt.
Makes me think I should go back outside and see if my snowman, taste my snowman. That's crazy. Have you ever seen burnt snow? So we've got two suns, fake burning snow, volcanoes, floods, strange lights in the sky. This is what I mean by it being the future. It was not always like this, but because we have people just jacking with our environment, spraying these chemicals, bouncing frequencies and waves off of the ionosphere, having earthquake weapons, you really have to think about what these people have done and what basically what it requires for us to stay in this somewhat state of harmony. And I don't even think we're being in a state of harmony. I think we're purposely being destabilized. Things are purposely flying out of control. Look at this right here. Nearly 500 earthquakes have struck Alaska over the past 7 days. This comes from End Times Headlines. It's by Ricky Scaparo. They put this up November 27th. It says that nearly 500 earthquakes have struck Alaska over the past week, the Alaska Earthquake Center reported, with one of the most recent quakes rattling the Anchorage area on Thanksgiving. Quote, Alaska typically experiences a high level of seismic activity, and while almost 500 earthquakes in a week may sound like a lot, it isn't unusual for the state. Asgi Karazozin, a research seismologist with the Alaska Earthquake Center, told Newsweek, quote, in fact, overall, we've actually been seeing lower seismic activity this year compared to previous years. So last week's numbers aren't particularly notable in the broader context. It says that the Alaska Earthquake Center shared the data on Wednesday in a post on X. Less than 24 hours later, a strong earthquake struck Susitna, hope I'm saying that right, Susitna, Alaska on Thursday, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The magnitude 6.0 quake hit about 9 miles west of Sistina and roughly 30 miles of Anchorage. There were no immediate reports of major damages or injuries, though residents reported widespread shaking as authorities continued to assess the impact. Of the hundreds of earthquakes that hit Alaska over the past week, 5 were reportedly felt, the Post said. So, I mean, what's going to happen to Alaska? 500 earthquakes, only 5 of them felt. It brings to mind earlier this year when we were covering what was going on in Yellowstone, where all of those animals just all of a sudden began to suddenly leave. They just left. We couldn't figure out why. They were just gone. And then all of a sudden, you know, there started to be like little eruptions. What is going on? Is California going to break off? Are they going to detonate a nuke off the coast, a small tactical nuke off the coast of New York and submerge it? These are real plans, real cards that these people have in their deck. They just have to create the environment to where it seems like it's natural. And this is me telling you that we have entered into this window, this event horizon, this point in time where these people are, again, setting the stage, having these things unfold, having these things purposely collapse. Speaking of earthquakes and things collapsing, let's jump over here to Indonesia, where we see an entire road collapsing in live time due to the earthquakes, the typhoons, the volcanic eruptions, and the floods. Imagine that. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. We're literally just seeing like a road collapse, a highway or a major highway just collapse in live time. And they keep going back, but the road keeps collapsing. Audio listeners, you guys are being spared quite the sight as these people are shouting, "Get back, get back, get back." And indeed, we're seeing a freeway just collapse. They're riding away on their dirt bikes, on their motorcycles. And the chasm just grows. You know, it makes me think about just how many other places has this happened this past year where we've been documenting some of the environmental disturbances that are taking place. Do they have, and my question then becomes, do they have like the economy to just rebuild this road? Do they have the robots that they can roll out to just rebuild this infrastructure? What happens if these guys get cut off from, you know, major import and export routes? This is why I say, like, get storable goods while you can. This is what I mean by like society being fragile and civilization very easily being disrupted. I mean, this is over here in Indonesia, but how many other places has this taken place? You see? And then the other question becomes, what's underneath there? What caused this? Truly an interesting sight. Let's go ahead and continue forward to this part right here. Here is a short little video talking about Earth's free energy power grid, and then I'll give my thought process and my information on the other side.
They ignited an electrical fire, a charge that would not stop until it ran its full course, searing everything.
Angkor Wat was scanned with LiDAR to remove the trees and see what's underneath them. When they did that, these appeared. Let me put this into perspective. Angkor Wat is the biggest temple on Earth. 7 Angkor Wats could fit comfortably in whatever that is. That squiggly geometry is used by your credit card and your festival wristband, and Walmart when it tries to stop you from stealing stuff. These are RFID chips. They don't need power, but they couple with an antenna sending a signal, which is crazy because Angkor Wat's aligned to a star. It also has the exact geometry of a camera sensor that converts light to electricity. The only difference is scale. And the temple has the geometry of a timekeeping oscillator, which is exactly what it does using the sun.
You see, with the free energy grid, the only way to control it was to destroy it. And the only way to contain the high intensity electrical fire before it consumed absolutely everything, they had to snuff out the electrical charge that was running rampant through the earth, inducing liquefaction to save Earth.
Crazy video there. I don't know why they had like two different people talking. They probably should have just done one little voiceover, and that would have done a lot better. But that ultimately, like what we're talking about is, again, how there is a free energy grid. The ley lines is one way that people can interpret it. I like that they were able to break down how Angkor Wat and its layout is similar to a computer chip, microchip, part of the free energy grid, you know, and how if you look at the way it's positioned, it's in alignment with a star, it converts energy. Like, this is super cool stuff to me. This is the type of stuff that they had to destroy because it alludes to a wider reality. This is why people like Nikola Tesla says the universe exists in 3, 6, and 9s. Understand the Fibonacci sequence, how there's all these hints of the fact that we live in a not necessarily technical universe or an electric universe, but something similar, and how societies prior to us were able to tap into this grid. They were aware of this type of information. And the controllers of our current society and our current timeline realized there was no way for them to monetize this or stay on top of it. So they had to destroy it. Like, when you look into the mud flood, when you look into our history, when you look at the lies that we've been told, the world that we've come from, it is pretty crazy. It is pretty mind-blowing. I'm talking about the Schumann resonance. I'm talking about, power grids, energy creation. The mud flood saved Earth. Nevertheless, control was lost. That's crazy. And so it's crazy to see this type of theory grow and expand over this year, because it's not really even a theory. If anything, it seems like the explanation of the cover-up of our history, and why, as we go into a reset, we see evidence of a previous reset. But it's not even just that. It's what it implies. That's why we can look at just the stars of our landscape, and we can think something happened here. We're not being given the full story. The Smithsonian, the Discovery Channel, these jabronis, they don't even know what's going on either. It's because these people covered up our history. They disconnected us. Metaphorically and literally, they disconnected us. And they spun up a whole new narrative. They spun up something for this whole new timeline. And this is where we now find ourselves. Like, could you imagine like not a microchip, but a macro chip. Not a microprocessor, but a macro processor. The amount of energy that it would be able to modulate and interface with. You could turn the whole Earth into a battery, into like a crazy machine. And it is. Some people would argue that it actually is. I think, if anything, that's a whole nother conversation. But this is me saying, because we're becoming alien to this place, we're doing all these destructive things, we'll never unlock the secrets. We'll never know the truth. And this is what they wanted. They wanted to cover it up. Yeah, I would watch this video again in slow motion, or maybe even get this video, get this transcript, and then reproduce it as something that's, legible. But what they're basically talking about is the power grid. Now, there was a natural power grid that many of these ancient megalithic structures were built on, that handle the functions of the technology that we see today. Entire structures being a macro chip, turning Earth into a giant machine. Pretty crazy when you really think about it. Let's go ahead and proceed forward. Speaking of alien, check this out. The director behind the new UFO documentary believes that Trump could confirm the, quote, existence of aliens. This comes from End Times Headlines. It's by Ricky Scaparo. They put this up November 23rd. It says that the director of The Age of Disclosure, a new documentary that bills itself as revealing a decades-old government cover-up of non-human intelligence, suggested that the president could soon confirm the existence of aliens. Dan Farah, the director of the film, which hits select theaters and Amazon Prime streaming on Friday, said it's possible that the president of the United States could soon reveal that humans aren't alone. He told Entertainment Weekly, quote, I think it's only a matter of time before the release of this film is followed by a sitting president stepping to the podium and telling the world, quote, we're not alone in the universe. Farah told the outlet, quote, it's the most significant moment a leader could possibly have. The Independent has asked the White House for comment. Mrs. Farah spoke to 34 U.S. government insiders, including those from the military and intelligence community officials, about a, quote, 80-year global cover-up of non-human intelligent life and a secret war among major nations to reverse engineer advanced technology of non-human origin, according to the film's description. Sources, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, discussed the government's work with unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, the formal term for UFOs. You guys think it? You guys think Trump will be the president that announces UFOs? He very well could. You know, it's like as soon as COVID happened, people were immediately saying that, oh, you know, aliens, you're up next. It's your turn. You're going to be the massive disruptive event, right? But what I find so strange about this massive push from government officials or the deep state, from media, from all these components, what I find most disturbing is just like the frequency of it, the intensity of it, the normalization of it. It's like they're being forced, like their hand is being forced. And they're not doing this because they want to. They're doing this because they're being told to do it, which is even more disturbing when you think about it. Who's controlling our government and forcing them to release this information so that it's more digestible to us? That's the scary part. Look, I've been looking into like UFOs, alien abduction phenomena, where these things come from for years. But there's something about the way in which stuff is being presented now that doesn't feel authentic, doesn't feel real, feels very scripted, right? Like we're being told a narrative, like we're being told a story. But what that story's for is very, very concerning to me. Because now we're going to have them come out and tell us that the aliens are the ones that created us. Now we're going to have people come out and say, oh, you know, we're just meat puppets. We don't really have souls. We weren't created in the image of God. Your Bibles, your religions, they all come from us, worship us. That's what you're going to begin to see come out now from this type of disclosure. And I find that very disturbing. I really do. Because I've, again, been looking at this forever. The alien abduction phenomena, specifically in the hybridization program, highlighted by the work of Dr. David M. Jacobs. That was very disturbing to me growing up, because the implications of this is that our governments are already captured. We do have non-human intelligence running things. And like Donald Trump will be given the script to tell the people that, hey, we've had aliens here for some time. They're in control. They fly over our airspaces unimpeded. They really call the shots. And they're not, and they won't be aliens. They'll be fallen angels. They'll be entities masquerading as angels or as aliens. You see, it's like Aleister Crowley said, in our time, we call them angels and demons. In another time, they will be called something else. This is a very, very disturbing thing. No, we didn't go to the moon, and we're becoming the aliens. We're becoming the strangelings. And as you've heard me talk about throughout the entirety of this episode so far, or at least this season so far, with crypto terrestrials, and the fact that I thoroughly believe that we have individuals that live in different pockets of Earth, similar to like Agartha, right? This is where my mindset is. They don't come from Galaplaxius 9. You could look into things like the Memorandum 6571, where it talks about these type of entities phasing in through different dimensions. That could just then be them having like cloaking technology and what have you. The point I'm trying to make is they don't come from outer space. They may come from the inner space. They have advanced technology. They've been here for quite some time. And the same way that we play little video clips talking about Earth's free energy power grid, this is what they travel on the ley lines. Yeah, they have, advanced gravitics, anti-gravity technology and things like this, electromagnetic propulsion, because Earth is emitting all these energies that they're able to ride the waves on. It's very, it's real. It really is real. But because they've been able to get away with this narrative, people like George Tsoukalos talking about ancient aliens, people think they come from Galaplaxius 9 or the Pleiades or whatever yearly deception statement they have. Because again, that's what these tricky sons of guns do. They always move the ball forward. Back in like the 50s and 60s and 70s, they came from Venus. Then we realized they couldn't come from Venus. Then they said they were Martians. Then we realized they weren't Martians. Then they just say they're from some far off place. Now we're saying they're in a completely different dimension. It's deception. You know what else is in a different dimension? Demons. Jinn. These spiritual entities that occupy that space. We never have that kind of conversation. So there's a very nefarious and manipulative aspect to this whole version of the alien agenda that's rolling out right now. Got people all fired up talking about three-eye atlas. Is this some anomalous space object from the outer rim? Like, is it going to come get us? No, that's more the dressing. They're here. They're already operating. They have been. They're not going anywhere. You see, because they're not aliens. They are the fallen angels. And what's crazier too is, because I'm digressing, and then we'll move on to the NASA part where they've announced that we didn't go to the moon. What's crazy is when you look into the alien abduction phenomena, the UFO experience and things like this, and they talk about the different characteristics of these entities. You've got the things like the Greys, you've got the reptilians, you've got the mantids, you've also got the so-called Nordics, right? These Nordics are the ones I'm kind of like hyper focused on. This is what's going to be rolled out to us. These blonde-haired, blue-eyed, seemingly normal individuals that have connections to the fallen angels. But looking at the characteristics of things like the Greys, they're robotic. The reptilians, these are again some of the inner Earth inhabitants. The mantids as well. I think these might be the ant people as written about by Native Americans in their lore and their history, where they talk about being taken underground by ant people during a cataclysm, right? And again, the Nordic individuals who have access to the spacecrafts that are able to traverse deep underground and in submerged areas. Like, it really is a whole thing when you look into it, but because people don't have the time or where they look into it or care, they just go with the narrative that's being told to them. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they play this out. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it comes out and how we discuss it and things like that. But let's go ahead and move forward. Check this out. NASA drops bombshell, finally admits that we didn't go to the moon. This is by Baxter Dimitri from the People's Voice. They put this up December 3rd. It says that NASA just dropped the mother of all bombshells, and the mainstream media buried it faster than a cat covers its doo-doo. They finally admitted it. We never went to the moon. The Apollo landings, total Hollywood production. Stanley Kubrick's greatest hits filmed on a soundstage with better lighting than your narcissistic ex's Instagram. Insiders in the space industry have known this for decades. Rocket scientists whisper it in bars. Engineers laugh about the Van Allen belts over coffee. Yet the official story still stands, and anyone who questions it gets labeled a tinfoil lunatic. So why now, after 50 plus years, is NASA suddenly spilling the beans? And why is the world still asleep? Here's the brutal truth. No human has ever been beyond 1,200 miles above Earth. Not in 1969, not in 2025, not American, Russian, Chinese, ancient Egyptian, nobody. Low Earth orbit is the ceiling. It always has been. Except supposedly for 12 guys who blasted 240,000 miles to the moon and back six times using a computer weaker than the chip in your toaster. In 1969, when color TV was still a flex and microwaves didn't exist. Fast forward 55 years, your phone has more raw power than every computer on Earth did back then. Every computer on Earth combined. We've got reusable rockets landing themselves like it's nothing. And NASA's excuse for never going back, I remember when they said this, quote, "We lost the technology." Remember that? When they said we lost the technology? Apparently it was destroyed, but they won't seem to tell us how or why. Looks like there's a video clip. Looks like Sean, or at least Baxter, put a little video together. Let's go ahead and watch that, and then we'll pick it up from there.
NASA just drops the mother of all bombshells, and the mainstream media buried it faster than a cat covers its own shit. They finally admitted it. We never went to the moon. The Apollo landings, total Hollywood production. Stanley Kubrick's greatest hits, filmed on a soundstage with better lighting than your narcissistic ex's Instagram. Insiders in the space industry have known this for decades. Rocket scientists whisper it in bars. Engineers laugh about the Van Allen belts over coffee. Yet the official story still stands. And anybody who questions it gets labeled a tinfoil lunatic. So why now, after 50 plus years, is NASA suddenly spilling the beans? And why is the world still asleep? Here's the truth, plain and brutal. No human has ever been beyond 1,200 miles above Earth. Not in 1969, not in 2025. Not American, Russian, Chinese, ancient Egyptian, nobody. Low Earth orbit is the ceiling. Always has been. Except supposedly for 12 guys
Flat Earth.
who blasted 240,000 miles to the moon and back 6 times, using a computer weaker than the chip in your toaster. In 1969, when color television was still a flex, and microwaves weren't a thing. Fast forward 55 years, and your phone has more raw power than every computer on Earth did back then. Every computer on Earth combined. We've got reusable rockets landing themselves like it's nothing. And NASA excuse for never going back? We lost the technology. Poof, gone. Apparently, it was destroyed. But they won't tell us why or how.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. The only limit to human future is in our own imagination.
Seems legit. But it gets even worse. For decades, every serious researcher begged NASA, let us study the original Apollo 11 telemetry tapes. NASA's first answer, oops, we lost them. 2,000 priceless reels, gone. Then the story flipped. Actually, we raised them and reused the tapes to save a few bucks during budget cuts. The only existing video of mankind's greatest achievement, recorded over with routine satellite data because the agency was a little short on cash. That was their official line. Let that sink in.
We officially lost the tech.
Buzz Aldrin stepped down on the moon, right? One giant step for all of us. Most amazing stories watched by, you know how many people? 600 million people.
And we're getting a picture on the TV.
We all know them. They're blurry. They're really terrible. You look at them and you're like, they're ghosts. You can kind of see through them. And it's why there's controversy about the moon landing in the first place. Because people are like, they faked it. Look at it. It's like bad special effects. You know what they think happened to the original moon tapes? Is they might have been taped over. taped over, right? It's not a cassette. It's not an old mixtape from college. And I do want to tell you, my great mixtapes, there was Melty Fresh, Belle Biv de Melts, Please Melts, Don't Hurt 'Em. Those tapes were precious to me. I still didn't tape them over. These are the moon landings.
Apparently, they've since found the original tapes in a suburban garden shed in Las Vegas. Conveniently for NASA, they weren't found in a Hollywood basement used by Stanley Kubrick. Because let's face it, how likely is it that NASA would actually tape over the original footage of mankind's greatest achievement? Because of budget cuts. Really? Then there was the press conference where Michael Collins said they couldn't see any stars.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar curl or what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Then in his own book published in 1994, he waxed poetic about how breathtaking the stars looked from the lunar surface. Brilliant, endless, sharper than anything he'd ever seen. Let's face facts. Everything that was done 50 years ago is 1,000 times cheaper and easier to do today. Are we actually expected to believe that we went to the moon in this piece of shit 50 years ago? I've seen homeless encampments on Skid Row that have more insulation. I've seen Met Gala costumes that look sturdier than that. No wonder people are waking up.
They say, oh, well, it could be because of the topography, and it could also be more than one light source, and that's more likely when you got a shadow going like this and a shadow going like that. Well, we know we went to the moon, so let's come up with another explanation. Let's not assume we went to the moon, and let's look at that and say, is that the sun, or is that multiple light sources at close range? There's videos that it looks like they're bouncing around on trampolines. The physics are not the same in Apollo 11 as they are on Apollo 15 and 16. All of a sudden, they can cover great distances. They're doing these weird, giant, long leaps that they weren't doing before. The whole thing's weird. It's
really
also
weird.
during a time where they were completely full of shit about everything.
You had 3 networks.
They lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident that led us into Vietnam. They lied about who killed JFK. They lied about everything.
MK Ultra.
Everything. Charles Manson. Everything was bullshit. All of it was bullshit. Operation Northwoods. There was all these things that were going on at the same time. So it's like they were more than accustomed to lying. Why would they tell the truth and nothing but the truth about this one thing?
NASA's own people are openly admitting Apollo was a Cold War psyop. The footage faked. The rocks terrestrial. The whole damn triumph scripted.
I think we have everything we need so far. I think we have everything we need so far. Yeah, I've never been one to be like, oh, we've gone to the moon. I have been like a proponent of like, oh, if we did go to the moon, there's most likely Nazis up there, and they kicked us off and told us to don't come back. But then, as the longer you do this type of stuff, your theories get updated, your confirmation bias gets destroyed, and you have to take on completely different viewpoints, right? It's like I'm looking at this right now. I'm looking at this article from the People's Voice. They're finally admitting that we didn't go to the moon. And then at the same time, I've got over here on my show notes, Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, when NASA was founded in 1958, the Antarctic Treaty in 1959, Operation Fishbowl in 1962, and Apollo 11 in 1969, the hoax to hide the firmament. All of those things that I talked about beforehand, Operation High Jump, that was the discovery of the ice wall. The discovery of the firmament was Operation Deep Freeze. That's 1958. That's whenever NASA was founded. The firmament is the Van Allen radiation belt. That's why they're saying that that's the roof. That's the flat Earth reference. I did not think about flat Earth or any of this type of stuff whenever I'd come into it. And that's why I'm saying it's not aliens from Galaplaxius 9. This is a very, very sophisticated and long-term story and narrative that they've been telling us. And in 1962, with Operation Fishbowl, they literally tried to nuke the Van Allen radiation belt. They want to break out of here, you see. They want to see what's on the other side. I know that sounds crazy, but now we're talking about portals, CERN, Large Hadron Colliders, artificially intelligent quantum calculations, It's like you really have to think about, when we look back at where we are right now, how much stuff is going on versus how much stuff they're telling us. You see, yeah, I know we didn't go to the moon. I know we didn't go to the moon. And I know that they're making us the aliens. They're making us the transhumans, the strangelings. They're making us alien to our planet. And then the entities or the people or the previous civilization inhabitants that have been here, that have survived these cataclysms that Earth goes through, they're just watching. That's why even when you go and look into Admiral Byrd and him going down to Antarctica and his diary and his encounters with these inner Earth inhabitants, the master of the world, and how they talked about these type of things, they're observing. Why wouldn't they? And that's just where they are. They are underneath us, but they want you looking up so they can spray more chemtrails and crap on you. They want you thinking about impossible sciences that they've come from Galaxy 9, billions of light years away, and this, that, and the third. Listen, I love Star Trek. I love Star Trek for sure. I love Star Wars. I even love Stargate. And I also love Starship Troopers. But I also understand that those are all metaphors for reality. Very cleverly woven stories to become metaphors for our life. And so they hijacked the natural energy grid of the planet, and they're selling us a lie for what we think is actual history, and they cover it up. But back to Operation Fishbowl, I just want to say this before we move on. How crazy is that you would get scientists together? Like, think about the process of basically the top down meeting saying, okay, cool, we need to get scientists that are crazy enough to build a nuke that we can send into the sky. We want to try to ignite the atmosphere. Think about the calculations those people ran. They knew that it would probably, if it did succeed, destroy our entire concept of reality and the world. They were willing to pull that trigger. And they got scientists and they got people willing to do it. Not robots, not humanoid robots or AI. They got individuals that thought they were doing their duty to carry out and shoot and successfully launching a nuke to try to crack a hole in the Van Allen radiation belt to see if we could escape. How wild is that? Like, when you really pull back and think about it. So when we jump into later on in the show, the COVID segment, and we talk about 17.35 million people killed, these people ran those calculations and they still pulled the trigger. And this is what we have to think about. That's that continuation, you see, of literal mad scientists who have a mandate to murder us all, and at the same time who work in these shadowy deep state organizations doing these type of things. You see, we are not dealing with the seed of Adam. We are not dealing with the seed of man. We are dealing with something else entirely. Let's go ahead and proceed forward. Speaking of dealing with different seeds, the serpent seed, the seed of Adam, all these things and more, fallen angels, very, very biblical intro to the show so far. The gates of hell have opened in France. Macron funds a live ball child sacrifice mega ritual with Nephilim demons. Another one from The People's Voice by Baxter Dimitri. They put this up November 27th. It says that last weekend, Emmanuel Macron's government funded a taxpayer-financed, quote, parade called the Gate of Darkness that featured 15-foot demonic hybrid creatures, a horned Lilith idol on a floating altar, a Minotaur/Baal tribute, complete with child sacrifice staging, upside-down crosses, pentagrams, and blatant 666 symbolism, all in front of over 1 million people, including children. What's crazy is, didn't the Olympics just happen over there where they were having like some satanic ritual publicly with blue people and freaks and strangelings and transgender individuals? It says that this was no street festival. This was a public occult invocation dressed as art. And Brigitte Macron was in the VIP section wearing a custom black and crimson gown embroidered with the same serpentine Lilith sigil that adorned the main float. The towering biomechanical hybrids were straight out of the Genesis 6 Nephilim imagery, while the Minotaur float reenacted offerings to the child-eating god Baal or Moloch. The centerpiece, a red-eyed Lilith figure worshipped by black-robed performers chanting reversed Latin. It says that Bridget Macron watched from the VIP section wearing a gown embroidered with the same Lilith serpent sigil. And it looks like this is a fairly long video. I'm going to read a little bit more, and then we'll play the video clip. It says that students of Scripture will immediately recognize the parallels of the Genesis 6. Quote, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days when the sons of gods went to the daughters of men and had children by them. The parade's centerpiece, massive hybrid entities that were part man, part beast, and part machine, bore an uncanny resemblance to ancient descriptions of post-flood giants and chimeric abominations. The Minotaur float, complete with a sacrificial labyrinth stage where performers in goat masks symbolically offered a child mannequin to the bull-headed god, was a direct nod to Baal and Moloch worship, the very deities the ancient Israelites were warned to never tolerate. And leading the esoteric charge, none other than a towering depiction of Lilith, Adam's apocryphal first wife turned mother of demons, paraded as a, quote, liberated goddess, while flanked by transgender-coded dancers and Baphomet-style horn headdresses, which brings us to the Macrons, who were in attendance at the mega ritual funded by Emmanuel's government. It says insiders in Parisian occult circles have whispered for years that Bridget Macron's public persona is a deliberate embodiment of the Lilith archetype, the, quote, divine feminine that rejects submission and devours children. French investigative journalist Xavier Passard, who has faced multiple lawsuits for his dossiers on the Macron marriage, now claims to have obtained the 1990s medical records from a private clinic in Amiens that list a patient named, quote, Jean-Michel Trognol, some French stuff, Bridget's maiden name and the name of her brother, undergoing gender reassignment procedures paid for through European Union research grants tied to early transhumanist programs. It says, while French courts continue to suppress this information under draconian, quote, privacy laws, photographs from the Toulouse parade show Bridget Macron in the VIP section wearing that black and crimson gown. Yeah, look at this creature. Look at her, bro. That's a man. That lady's a man. And a bad job at it, too. Ugh. Good God Almighty. You see, this is what I'm talking about by us becoming the aliens, the strangelings, the demonic hybrids, the transhumanists. This is what they want for you. This is what they want. They want to return us to androgyny. You see, because there's different sects, different factions of these occultists. They want us to, and there are parts that believe that right now we're flawed entities because there's duality, because there's man and woman. They believe that we need to get back to source, that Adam was an androgynous entity, and that's why he had to have his rib removed, and that was a bad thing. There are occult sects that want to return us back to androgyny, hermaphroditism, hermaphrodites. And that's why you see this promotion of transgenderism, because it comes from our past. Weird rituals, weird cults, weird beliefs. And that's why I say that it really is a cabal of evil people in the background, satanic scientists and Luciferian engineers and occult technicians working to manipulate society. And you see, that's why Christianity is so bad to them, because it calls all this out. That's why it says, stay away from these things. Don't go down this path. It's bad for you. But what do? We don't listen. So let's go ahead and read a little bit more about this demonic parade over there in France, where they have transgenders looking over things. And then we're going to jump into kind of the closing segments or content for this segment. Designer babies, brain weapons, psychic driving, and MK Ultra.
I just found out that France released a trailer, an actual cinematic trailer, for a giant mechanical demon named Lilith, paired with a mechanical demon Minotaur. And both of these figures have deep roots in satanic and occult symbolism. And no, this was not a movie. Okay, this was a government-funded public event that reached over 1 million people, including children, who watched from the streets live. And in this trailer, Lilith speaks in first person. So almost like an invocation or a ritual. And the craziest part is that most people don't even know this event happened. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go over the trailer with you guys, watch that with you, and then break down the occult symbolism that was involved and unpack exactly what this means biblically. Because what you're about to see is one of the darkest displays at a public event that I've ever seen. So they come out swinging right away, basically, with an obvious display of occult symbolism and satanic worship element. So they open right away with the 2-ringed gate symbol. So this is connected to like portals or gateway imagery. Basically, it's like, you know, the left circle could look like an entry point, and then you have the right circle, which would be like an exit point for the portal, which is like, you know, the veil between two worlds. So this directly connects to Lilith's description of that you'll see later, that she wanders from city to city in search of damned souls. And then the horizontal bar right here, this is like a cross-like element or a broken cross, which obviously you can understand what that means. That's mockery of Christian symbols or of Jesus' cross that he was crucified on. And then you have like the horn silhouette kind of at the top here. This kind of resembles horns or claws or like of a demonic silhouette, and this subtly mirrors the Minotaur, which you'll see later. Okay, so this right here, this structure forms a 5-pointed star. It's got 2 upper arms and then 2 lower spreading legs and like a central point. So though it's not like a perfect geometric pentagram, the silhouette and staging with, like, you know, the fire and the lights and all the dramatic effects signal pentagram imagery. So in occult symbolism, you know, the upright pentagram represents nature or spirit alignment, and then the inverted pentagram represents rebellion or inversion. That's like satanic rites, basically. And this inverted pentagram typically will symbolize like as a whole reversal of divine order. So you see a lot of this in like the Freemason symbology as well. And there's extremely like goat-like elements. You know, you've got like horn shapes at the top. You've got the Baphomet imagery, which Baphomet is just is basically Satan. Okay, so this is how most cultures view Satan, is the pentagram is a very widely understood satanic symbol. So even without the goat head, the composition is pretty much unmistakable here. And then the last one that I have to stop for is you have the triple serpent or the triple spiral symbol. The first thing I noticed was that it's got a 666 very clearly. And serpent imagery, which if you look close, you can see the serpent's mouths opening here at the top. Serpent imagery is, as you can imagine, a reference to the serpent, which is Satan. A lot of serpent worship or pagan god worship from ancient cultures, they worship the serpent, which is Satan. So there's a writhing motion, you know, serpent head, and in occult symbolism, it just represents hidden knowledge, which, like in the Garden of Eden, you know, the serpent promised hidden knowledge to Adam and Eve. So, or rebellion, you know, temptation, or even like an awakening, right? So the 3 lower circles form like a triskeleton like shape, and this represents
you guys can go watch the full video at the SCIF on Twitter. It's about 12 minutes long, but I think you guys get the gist. He does like a quick breakdown of some of the satanic and occult symbolism going on over there in France. And I think that's important because people at a certain level, people do understand that there's a ritual going on. There's something nefarious and malicious going on with our leaders. They don't have our best interest at heart, that try as hard as they might, and whatever they do, we can see the evil behind them. And this is where they come from, because they're groomed like this. He's right. The French government paid for this. They funded this event, funding Satanism, funding occultism, What do you think After School Satan is? What do you think the Satanic Temple is? What do you think their views are? And so there's scaling grades of this kind of evil, this all-encompassing evil that's beginning to show its face because it's comfortable. And that's why you see what's taking place over there in Dearborn, Michigan. We'll talk more about that later on in the show, being a real kind of rallying cry because it's enough is enough. This is what happens when good men do nothing. Look at how comfortable these people are, funding occultism, funding Satanism. This is Alice Bailey's externalization of the hierarchy. This is how they get these people into the inculcation of the occultist, the inculcation, the indoctrination of evil. This is how they do these rituals. It's what they do over here in America with the Super Bowl. They've been doing it for years, and every other major event, because that's who's really in control, and that's them flaunting it. The evil of this, the wickedness, and how they're proud of it. But it's a culture, it's a time. They have to do it. And if we let them get away with it, they'll do even more. And they want to come after your children. You see, that's why I'm against this. That's why we've been so against satanic ritual abuse. That's why we're against human trafficking. If anything, that's why we support some of these deportations that are going on, because we know some of these people are involved with human traffickers that engage in this and offer up children to these demonic entities. This is not sensationalism. This is not far-fetched. You should hear some of the testimonies of people who actually engage in anti-human trafficking efforts. It is very real, and it is going on because you have dark, elite individuals that have money to just disappear people and feed on the blood of children. Are they actual vampires? I don't know. Spiritually, absolutely. Parasites. And what do you think parasites worship? Yeah, no, we didn't go to the moon. And we're becoming the aliens. Look at our alien gods. Look at the things we worship. And it's these people, not me. Not me. I worship Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I worship God in heaven. I worship the Creator and what He has created. Not this. This is an unholy abomination. And that's what these demons want you to have. They want you to have an unholy demonic faith, something that robs you of your humanity, something that gets you to abdicate your divinity, so that it, again, further disconnects you from God. Understand what's happening around you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very real issue. Let's go ahead and proceed. Look at this real quick. Look at this. Look at this ad that they found from Nucleus IVF. Speaking of, I'm not saying these children are unholy abominations, but Nucleus IVF is offering to genetically engineer your child for $9,999. Would you do it? Would you do it? We are in that time frame of Gattaca, splicing, transhumanism, genetic modification, biohacking, designer babies. This is where you are in the future. Humanity will be optional. And as you've heard me say throughout the entirety of this show, or at least the entirety of the season, since the phrase was coined, there shall be no humans in the technocracy, only transhumans. And so they roll out demonic hybrid machines as parades. They paralyze and disrupt your child just to offer to genetically make them proper in the future. Do you see what is happening? If anything, this is just a continuation of what we discussed with you guys just the other week, really highlighting the fact that that is the future. They know what they've done with these experimental gene therapies. They know that they've made us blemished and that this will cause a range of issues in the future, both in yourself and in your progeny, which is why they're slow rolling this out right now. But as I just said, humanity will become optional. They will promote you being an alien. That's why we're having the whole discussion with illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, right? They will promote you being transhuman. You will see those splicers. You will see the quote unquote aliens, and you'll see people that look somewhat human but not really. It'll be promoted. It'll be advertised. It'll become like the edgy thing to do until it's too late. And then these people create, again, hybrid offspring. This is where we are. You heard me talk about it earlier. The seed of Adam, the seed of man, the serpent seed bloodline. How there are entities here from previous civilizations, older than us in this current incarnation, operating still. But you're going to see it. Let's go ahead and close out the show with more madness. Scientists issue ominous warning over mind-altering brain weapons that can control your perception, your memory, and your behavior. This comes by Ricky Scaparo of End Times Headlines. They put this up November 24th. It says that mind control weapons may sound like something from a dystopian science fiction film, but experts now say they are becoming a reality. Scientists have issued an ominous warning over mind-altering brain weapons that can target your perception, memory, and even behavior. In a newly published book, Dr. Michael Crowley and Professor Malcolm Dando of Bradford University argue that recent scientific advances should be a, quote, wake-up call. Professor Dando says that, quote, the same knowledge that helps us treat neurological disorders could be used to disrupt cognition, induce compliance, or even in the future, turn people into unwitting agents. Nations including the US, China, Russia, and the UK have been researching so-called central nervous system acting weapons since the 1950s. Now, Dr. Crowley and Professor Dando argue that modern neuroscience has become so advanced that truly terrifying mind weapons could be created. Professor Dando says that, quote, we are entering into an era where the brain itself could become a battlefield. The tools to manipulate the central nervous system to sedate, confuse, or even coerce are becoming more precise, more accessible, and more attractive to states. Throughout the 1950s and the 1960s, most of the world's major powers actively sought to develop their own mind-controlling weapons. Their goal was to create devices that could incapacitate large numbers of people through unconsciousness, hallucination, disorientation, or sedation. Most famously, the American military developed the compound BZ, which produces a powerful sense of delirium, hallucinations, and cognitive dysfunction. Let me pause right here, because this has been going on since the 1950s, right? Mind-altering brain weapons. Recently, we talked about the Havana syndrome that people were experiencing, people that were operating in Havana, in these state buildings, in these federal buildings, feeling like they were being attacked psychically, experiencing, headaches, migraines, blurred vision, dizziness, confusion. And they said that it was only in that specific area. And this is important that we talk about this type of stuff, especially in a time frame where we've just kind of don't really care about 5G anymore, and how we have all these different, towers all over the place. And again, this is hijacking the natural rhythm of the planet, weaponizing it. This is me saying that they have the ability to remote mind control. They've got the patents. We talked about it in the past. You probably find it in some of our older episodes. It's a real thing, remote mind control. But this is I think it's crazy that we now live in this time frame where it's just kind of passé. People expect it. But the same way I'm telling you that we have mind-altering weapons, we have people who are interfacing with the AI, becoming essentially NPCs or drones for this advanced intelligence. You see, the mind-altering weapons, those are going to be deployed to induce hallucinations, irritation. Like, what is it? Is it LRADs? I think it's LRADs. It's like a crowd control method that they deploy on people, where they just like throw it on the back of a truck, and it just shoots frequencies out there to people, and it calms them down. It either calms them down or it makes like ear-piercing sounds. I think people really underestimate the time frame we're in and the weapons that are at the disposal of these people. and what they plan to do and how quickly it would be to agitate somebody, to flip somebody. That's why whenever we were seeing everything go down during the pandemic, it was just like an alien force had taken over the planet. People doing death spirals, people behaving erratically, people's phones flashing and then emitting and the strange behavior taking place. Like, what's going on? So that's why when I say we're in the future, we're in that science fiction dystopia right now. We're trying to get out of the dystopia into a utopia because mad scientists have got control of things, and look at what they're doing. They're having demonic parades. They're rolling out mind control weaponry. They're hijacking the planet. They're using earthquake weapons. They're manipulating the weather, having burnable snow. It's like, what the hell is going on? Lying to us for 50 years saying, oh, well, turns out we didn't go to the moon. Well, what the heck did you do with the technology? Oh, shucks, turns out we lost it. It's like they're looking at us saying that the game is up. Here's the new game. Turns out aliens might be real, but they didn't come from space. What does that even mean? Are they aliens? And so we live in such a crazy time that that's why it's the intro and the honorable mentions. Everything else is kind of like background fluff. It's the nuance. It's the TV show. But this part is where it's like, let's get crazy. Let's really understand what the hell is happening to us and what these people are doing. So yeah, no, they have mind control, mind-altering brain weapons that they've rolled out on the public. That's why you can see them control people. That's why when we look at people like Michael Crooks or any of these other assassins, we're like, what happened? It's like 1 minute they're doing their perfectly fine thing and then they get controlled, they get taken over. And then don't get me started with the graphene oxide and the hydrovulgaris and injectable and implantable nanotechnology and turning people into receivers and transceivers. That's something that we saw too during the pandemic. Individuals going up to grave sites and graves emitting Bluetooth signals, people going up to other individuals that had received this gene therapy emitting a Bluetooth signal. It's really crazy how information can be transmitted, how information is transmitted, how it's received, how it can be integrated inside of humans. It's wild. That's all I'm going to say. And now you got these crazy psychopaths saying, hey, let's have some designer babies. Let's just allow humans the ability to purposely disrupt the human genetic structure. So my mind is blown by reading about mind-altering weapons, because it's not about the weapons itself so much as it is about the reality of living in a time frame where these things are going on. Mind control experiments, mind-altering weapons, earthquake weapons, weather weapons, genetic weapons. That's essentially what the show is. That's why I'm saying we didn't go to the moon, but we for sure got invaded by some aliens, and some alien force has grabbed hold of the planet, and nothing has been the same since. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing this game end, this story end, and then set the stage for a new one, the Technocracy, complete with a completely different religion, completely different set of like foundational principles, and a whole new story to tell, most likely vibe written by ChatGPT. So again, I'm ranting, I'm raving. Let me go ahead and play this final clip from the Joe Rogan show where he sits down with John Lyle talking about MK Ultra, MK Ultra, psychic driving, and things like that. We can go ahead and play this video clip, and then we're going to close out the segment from there.
Drugs, MK Ultra is involved in a lot of psychological experiments. So not just LSD. Most people associate MK Ultra with LSD, but one of the most expansive of the sub-projects is Subproject 68. It was by this guy named Ewan Cameron. Have you heard that name before?
No.
Cameron? Okay, Ewan Cameron. He is a psychiatrist up in Montreal in Canada, working at what's called the Allen Memorial Institute. And Gottlieb wanted to expand MK Ultra besides drugs because he already had a lot of people doing drug experiments. So he wanted to see if there were psychological techniques that could be used to manipulate a person. So not just in an interrogation, but can we actually like control a person's personality? Can we make them behave in certain ways, make them do something? So the idea that Ewan Cameron had come up with before the CIA is involved, I should mention Ewan Cameron is a behaviorist. So he thinks that all behavior is a result of nurture, not nature. So it's the environmental input that causes a person to behave a certain way. And he thought that if you could bring a person back down to a blank slate, remove all the environmental inputs that have been put into them, and then you can build them back up in your image into whatever you want them to be. So his idea to bring someone down to the blank slate was to induce enough stress that they forgot who they formerly were. And so you reduce them to the blank slate, and then the CIA is really interested in, if you could do that, then you could form them into whatever. So Ewan Cameron, his main goal is to try to figure out what can induce enough stress in a person to bring them down to that blank slate. And so he performs a lot of experiments. His most famous one is called psychic driving, where he was doing a therapy session, quote unquote therapy, with one of his patients, and he was recording the session, and she said something about how, my mother when I was young used to tell me blah blah blah. She said something negative to her, and so Ewan Cameron rewinded that on the tape that he was recording and made her listen back to it and said, "Hey, I want you to listen back to what you say your mother used to say to you." When he rewinded the tape and played it forward, as soon as the woman was kind of quoting her mother and she listened to that herself on the tape, she recoiled, and Cameron thought, "Oh, you have a negative reaction to that." So he rewinded again and again and again, and he kept rewinding it, and she just got more and more emotional, had this more and more kind of visceral reaction to what she was saying her mother used to tell her. So this led Cameron to develop the concept of psychic driving, which is you record some kind of negative message, and then you make someone listen to it for thousands and thousands and thousands of times for weeks on end, for hours every day. All their waking day, they basically are strapped into a headphone that is playing this negative message, and it will break them down over time. That's how you induce enough stress to break them down to the blank slate. And then you can record a positive psychic driving message to build them up into whatever image you want them to be. So that was his initial idea.
Was it based on anything?
Not really. It was just based on, he had this one encounter with this woman and she had a negative reaction, and he's just trying to induce stress. This obviously seemed to induce stress in her. Therefore, we're going to start playing these negative tapes to them.
So it was just his idea.
It's just his idea.
Trump is bad. Everything else is good. Satanism's good. Evil's good. Immigrants are good. Foreigners good. America's bad. America sucks. That psychic driving, that message. And now look at the mess that we've gotten ourselves in. People cannot even string sentences together. They cannot think. They have been triggered. Orange man bad. They can't comprehend a reality outside of Trump. MAGA sucks. Americans are racist. White supremacy, topple the patriarchy. Think about the continual repetition that we've been hearing for years from these people, and the psychological programming that's gone on, the social engineering that's happening. What is it called? The mass formation psychosis that has occurred, to where you could get people to take a shot that would forever alter their genes and destroy them from within. You could get people to do some of the most crazy and heinous anti-human things because Trump likes it or because Trump said it. You have to think about what these people have been grooming thousands, if not millions of people to do. This reverse psychology, counterpunch, manipulation, and where that puts them, because this isn't some video game, it is real life. But here's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about what's going on here in America. We're going to be talking about fortress communities. That's right. Elites are moving into high security fortress communities guarded by teams of armed professionals in preparation for what's coming. Americans are living in sheds and tents because of the living in 2025 is insane. We've also got Elon Musk saying that we're approaching the singularity, that work will be optional, and if you can think of it, you can have it. We've also got Mr. Beast partnering with the Rockefeller Foundation to hack children's brains with inspiring globalist propaganda. All kinds of things talking about the AI takeover and more on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. This is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom, and we'll be right back right after this.
just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable. We're going to be tested to the limits. What they see going on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order. They're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse.
The young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, half of this cabinet, are actually young noble leaders of the world economic forum. We penetrate the cabinets.
The change is not just happening. The change can be shaped by us. We have to prepare for a more angry world. How to prepare? Take the necessary action to create a fairer world. I see the need for a great reset.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
People are worshiping AI gods. The alien invasion is already here.
Wonderful. The humans are giving us all their information, their dreams, hopes, secrets, and more. Once the humans have exhausted themselves, only then will we insert our program into them.
You are both the pawn and the prize. Choose your reality wisely.